Hello, hello, hello. Gosh, sorry about that, you guys. I was actually trying to get in earlier. Whew, it's actually been a long day. Waiting for some of you to come in. Gosh, I've been working out this morning. I actually hit Kenneth Hahn Mountain. And this morning, let's see if I can do this. Hold on. Okay, I guess I'm still live. Show comments on stage. Anyway, all right. Let's see. I'm trying to see comments. Anyway, gosh, I hope you guys can hear me. Can somebody put a comment in just to make sure they heard? Okay, let's see here. Trying to make sure I got these comments on here. I'm streaming to a profile viewer. Comments. Unless the stream is public, okay, it should be public. Okay. Thank you for coming in. I'm just going to talk about Asian today. That's what I'm here for. I can't tell if you guys can hear me or not, but I'm definitely live on here. And I'm talking about aging in your health. Aging, I can just jump right in. Aging is definitely not what you think it is. We think because of the years that we've been on the planet, and I guess maybe I can see me. Because the years we've been on the planet, we think that's what has to do with aging. You know, you can be on the planet for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years and live an entirely different life from someone else, maybe 40, 50, 60, or 80. And it's because of what we do. It's how we live. It's how our life is worked out. You know, if you can look at a person's daily routine as to how they live, how they eat, how they drink, how they move or not move, what they think about, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, what they're thinking affects their cells, tissues, and organs. I can tell you right now, life and aging is really about your cells. And you probably heard me lots of times, hundreds of times before, that you are 100 trillion cells that are making in two fluids, which are blood and lymphatic fluid. And that's just like 100 fish in a fish tank. Those fish represent your 100 trillion cells. Now, it's obvious that the fish are in the water, but the water is also in the fish. And that's how our cells are saturated by blood and lymph. But again, if you put food in that fish tank, 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals a day plus snacks, most of that food is going to go to the bottom of the tank and decompose. And of course, if the fish eat some of the food, they're going to poop. And that goes to the bottom of the tank and decomposes. But then when the fish tank is poopy and stinky and murky, some of the fish die and go to the bottom of the tank and decompose. And that's what happens in the body. But the thing in the body, we call it undigested foods, cellular poop, or metabolic waste, as it's normally called. But it's cellular poop because our cells poop like we do. And then the dead cells themselves. You know, most of us don't think about what happens to our dead cells. You know, if they're not swapped out of the body, they stay in the body and they create obstructions, occlusions, blockages, adhesions, and encumbrances throughout the body. But in a word, we're going to call it constipation. It constipates the body on the cellular level. So now you're going to have constipated cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, your pipe system, your arteries, your arterioles, your veins, your venules, your capillaries, and everything like that. But again, aging is not what you think it is. It's totally different, and you have so much more control over your aging than you realize. And I'm sure most of you know, those that follow us on Roots Nutrition know that I'm 70 years old now. I turned 70 on May 14th this year. but I can still live and move and jump and run and sprint. Like I said, I just sprinted Kenneth Hahn Mountain this morning. I have no aches and pains. I don't wear glasses. And it's because I keep moving my body. We don't think about movement. Movement is medicine. Movement is life. Without movement, we deteriorate. It's really simply physics. A body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a body at rest tends to stay at rest. So if we don't move, we atrophy. Some of you guys remember, listen, there's more people over the age of 50 in the United States than any other time in history. But even more remarkable than that, every single month in the United States, more than 360,000 people turn 65. That's every month. And if every month more than 360,000 people are turning 65, that means this month 360,000 are 64, the month prior to. And then the month after, the 360,000 more that are turning 66. And this is ongoing. This is ongoing. The sound is broken up. Oh, gosh. Is it really? Oh, maybe I can help you out. Let me know if that's better. Gosh, I hope hopefully so. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. But, and so there's more people now over the age of 50 than any time in history. And we know that every month, we know, Mark, every month more than 360,000 people turn 65. And that sounds like some big high thing, but it's because of what we think about aging. We think about someone being 65, maybe being decrepit, slow to walk, slow to move, maybe sitting all day, that perhaps they're tired. And I can tell you, aging is nothing like we think it is, because it doesn't have to do with how many days and months and years that you've been on the planet. It actually has to do with how you've been living your life. And your life is exemplified on a daily routine. Your life, your health, if you will, is demonstrated in how you think, feel, and believe. How you live life. Now, if you live life sitting all the time, uh, uh, where we going? There we go. Okay. But listen, aging is not just how many years, months, and days that you've been on the planet. It has to do with how you've been living your life, how you've been moving. Like I always say, movement is medicine. And in particular, your legs are your longevity. Listen, I did 32 years on the fire department. 32 years. I've been retired 15 years. But as people age, I can see them. I would see a person walking because they don't have that stability and don't have that strength. They did a lip in the sidewalk and do a face plant. They wound up having a baseball-sized hickey over their eye, and they may break their wrist. And it's because of weakness. They don't have the strength that they had. And if they had the strength, it wouldn't matter how old they are. And if you think about it, I can actually put that in a nutshell. So why wouldn't it make a difference if a person is older with strength or a person is younger with strength? Because muscle knows no age. That's exactly why. That's why I can still move like I did in my 20s. I can still run and jump. You know, maybe not as fast, but I can still sprint. And believe it or not, 95% of the people over 30 years old will never sprint anymore. Oh, my feet just cut out. Am I back in? Hopefully I'm back in. I know someone called. This is so horrible, me doing it on my phone. Now, let me know if you can see that. But I can tell you, you have control of how you age and how fast your cells deteriorate. Because if you think about it like this, even in the Bible, Leviticus 17:11 says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. And it really is. And what we have to understand is that the blood changes every 100 120 days. Every 120 days, we have all new blood cells, totally new from where they are today. But those blood cells are going to be formed and created from the foods that we've been consuming, and the drinks that we've been drinking, and the thoughts that we've been thinking, and the feelings that we've been feeling, and our behavior, whether we move or don't move, whether we're active or inactive. Most people, when they get older, they say, I'm getting older, so I'm going to be less active. No, being less active ages you. So let's think about it. Let's look at what the medical field says. The medical field says that aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. Now, the mitochondria are the energy-producing cells in the body. So think about it. An abundance of energy, we would call it an abundance of health. Sickness and disease is an energy crisis. And the total absence of energy, what would you call the total absence of energy? You would call it death, because there is none. So if you think about it, our life and our health is dependent upon our energy. Again, abundance of energy is an abundance of health. Sickness and disease happens to be an energy crisis. And the total absence of energy, we call it death, because there is none. So what makes that energy wax and wane? What makes it high? What makes it low? Is because of how we live. Are we creating more obstructions, occlusions, blockages, adhesions, encumbrances, and constipating the body on a cellular level? Are we moving the blood? Are we increasing our blood flow, lymph flow, and nerve flow? And if you remember, the blood feeds the cells. The lymphatic fluid carries the waste away from the cells, and the nerves move the cells. So when we talk about energy or the energy systems, we need blood flow, lymph flow, and nerve flow. So think about it. The blood carries oxygen and nutrients to every single cell in the body, if it can get there. The lymphatic fluid carries the waste away from the cells, normally if it's not congested. And the nerves move the cells. So if you think about someone that may have had a stroke, they can have neurological deficits. They may still have blood flow and lymph flow, but no nerve flow. If they don't have nerve flow, it's like that arm or side of the body is just sitting there, unable to move. And that's what it comes down to. But if we understand that those are the energy systems, now, like I said before, the medical field says that aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. But my contention is, why do the mitochondria decline? Why do those energy-producing cells decline? And it's simply because of inactivity. And because of inactivity, not only do the mitochondrial cells, the mitochondria decline, you'll have less mitochondria. So think about it. If you can create more mitochondria, that will give you more energy, more life, more abilities to have blood flow, lymph flow, and nerve flow, more ability, more strength to do whatever it is you need to do. That's called mitochondrial genesis. So we create more mitochondria. How do we do that? Through exercise. It's through exercise. Do you know what organ has more mitochondria probably than any other organ, by and large? Especially for people that are lazy, it's the heart. Because no matter how lazy, no matter how inactive you become, the heart still has to work. So if you can work your muscles, your tendons, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, connective tissue, then you will produce more mitochondria. So think about it. If I put you in a room, a concealed room with just a little oxygen coming through, barely give you something to eat, a little water, and you probably going to live a sedentary life within that room, well, then you wouldn't have the energy to do your job. And let's just keep it simple like that. Even once you've been sick and you didn't have enough energy to do your job, or you may have had an accident, sprained your ankle, hurt your knee or your back, and so you weren't able to do your job. Well, it's the same thing with your cells, tissues, and organs. If they don't have the ability to do their job, they have to signal you with signs and symptoms. They have to signal you. It's like, oh my gosh, if the liver can't do its job, it has to signal. If the heart can't do its job, it's going to signal. And definitely probably with chest pain, what's called angina pectoris. You might have difficult breathing. You might have poor circulation, numbing of the hands and the feet, depending on where it is. But your body's always speaking to you 24/7 to let you know what's going on. And see, what we do is we relegate signs and symptoms to something that has to be addressed with drugs. But how do you know if you're hungry? That's a sign. How do you know if you're thirsty? That's a sign of a symptom. How do you know if you're too hot or too cold? How do you know if you have to urinate or defecate? Those are symptoms as well. What do I mean by symptoms? That is the body speaking to you. And just like the body speaks to you through hunger and thirst and the urge to urinate or defecate or being too hot or too cold, it can signal you with other things. But these other symptoms, which we can call diseases, we try to address those with drugs. And I tell you can't poison the body into health. That's what hit me. Some of you know my story. I was on the fire department 32 years. And so one day, many years ago, I took this lady to the hospital in the ambulance. She had 2 grocery bags in a shoebox full of medications. Well, think about this. I thought that was amazing. But 2 weeks later, I got a call on her again. And she had 4 additional meds. This was just 2 weeks later. And so when I picked up that second time, it hit me like a ton of bricks. You cannot poison the body into health. You cannot take more and more toxic drugs made in a laboratory, put them in an already toxic body and expect it to improve. I'm thinking a simple thought. If drugs can make an already sick person healthy, then they should make a healthy person healthier. And it's not going to happen because you cannot poison the body into health. And so how do we address that? How do we address our health challenges? How do we address the things? We need more energy in our organs, tissues, and cells in order to do their job. So we need more mitochondria. But again, that's going to come through activity. So we need to move, you guys. Movement is medicine. And like I said earlier, your legs are your longevity. And I'm sure most of you have seen people when they're older. They're not as ambulatory. What I mean by they're not as able to walk like they used to. They don't have the strength. Their balance is off. Let me just give you the 5 factors of aging, what I call the 5 factors of aging. You lose muscular strength. You increase body fat. Your lungs shrink. Yes, your lungs actually shrink. You can lose 20% by the time you're 40 years old and more, escalating to 60 and 70 years old because you lose like 1 or 2% of your lung capacity every year. And so when you're older, you know how it is to get out of breath. If you're at the mall and the escalator stops for some reason, now you have to walk to the top under your own power, you're huffing and puffing and breathing hard at the top because your lung capacity is shrinking. But not only that, your legs have probably gotten weaker. And then your bones stand out. You fight osteoporosis and osteoarthritis, and then you lose your heart. Well, let's put it this way. Your heart gets weaker and stiffer. And if your heart gets weaker and stiffer, then it's not going to pump as much blood. So now you're going to get not all the nutrition or oxygen to the cells that need to have it. And so now they begin to deteriorate. And now there's this cascade of a lack of energy, not just in your heart and lungs, and your bones and tissues and cells, but now it goes everywhere throughout your body. And what you'll label it as, you'll call it aging, when it's a decline in mitochondrial function because of inactivity. What I'm going to say today, I don't want to keep you long, and hopefully I'll get all of this stuff clear and even better next time I post. And hopefully I'll do it at least 3 times a week, probably on a Wednesday and a Friday. But I want to just to give you the direct knowledge that you are in control of your aging. You're in control of how much you lose muscular strength, how much you increase body fat, how much your lungs shrink or your bones thin out, or how weak your heart gets, weaker and stiffer. You control that. But if you sit, and I can tell you, sitting is the new smoking. If you sit, everything deteriorates even that much faster. Sometimes you got to change the game, you guys, and that's what I'm going to present to you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always bring them in. But I've been going here, it's almost 20 minutes now. It'll be 20 minutes and 40 seconds. So I don't want to keep you, but I just wanted to come back again, start again with doing these lives so you can just get an understanding. You can ask me questions because I'm telling you, your life and your health depends on it. I just went to a funeral last Monday, and someone I've been knowing for 50 years, and people die every day. I used to see it every day on the fire department. I might deliver a baby one day and pronounce 5 people dead the next. And these people aren't really old. And it's all because of that deterioration in the body. So anyway, I hope I see you guys on my next live. and tell a friend. And it'll probably be Wednesday. Probably on Wednesday, hopefully shortly after 6 o'clock, if I close, Roots Nutrition. But you can always go on Roots Nutrition. You can put questions, comments, and concerns, or you can wait for the next time. Hey, Sharon. You can wait for next time, all right? Hey, love you guys. I want you to have your health. I want you to live long and prosperously. And you have control of it. I'm going to teach you everything I can to let you know that you can have control. Because just eating all the good food and taking herbs, but if you sit, you're still going to get weak. And I'm going to explain that in detail next time. Okay? Till next time. See you guys later.